everyone, and welcome to the Truth and Data Podcast, where each week we tackle a different digital forensics topic. I'm Jessica,
And I'm Debbie.
and this week we are actually going to be answering your thoughts and responding to your thoughts on what you want from digital forensics tool vendors. In a previous conversation, do you remember which episode that was?
I do not remember which episode it was, but we did come up with this idea of, hey, our digital forensics tool wish list. And I know that you made a LinkedIn post and asked people about it.
Right. And we got so many responses about what your thoughts were for what is on your digital forensics tool wish list. So today we've kind of compiled and brought them together and categorized them, and we're going to kind of go through what your all comments and thoughts were. So the first one was really about this data ingest bottleneck. Um, or I believe Debbie put this in the great words of uh, Tom Cruise, the need for speed. Uh, and and this really has to do with that dead time between, we get the image in, we receive it in, and we start processing it. We're ingesting it. We get the image, we rip the phone, and now it's running through all our tools. And really, the point here is people need access to their evidence quicker.
Right. You know, for me too, as a former law enforcement executive, helping manage a workflow and looking at real cases. We talk about workflow sometimes like it's a process and almost uncoupled from the reality of we are sometimes trying to find kids, we are sometimes trying to find missing persons,
Yep.
and the speed at which we can extract data and just look for leads sometimes, like the speed at which we can do that makes a
it,
difference.
it makes a difference in real people's lives, and that's the important part, right? There are cases where time is not critical, but then there are cases where time is more than critical.
Right.
And I'd say there's a couple of different angles. Number one, what can we get while other things are processing? I would love sometimes I wish you're going to get both the community's wish list and Jessica's wish list in
Right.
here,
Me and mine.
and yours too, and Debbie's too. Sometimes what I wish is that I could say, hey, parsers, this is the most important thing to me. You know what? Right now, what I care about more than anything else is browser history. Parse browser history first. And yes, I understand you might need to come back and take a second look at browser history later. Not really with browser history, but with some other artifact, because something else needs to be, unencumbered and looked at before you can do this deeper thing. But at least triage, this is what's important to me in this case. So sometimes I wish I
Right.
could say, it's kind of what I use like the Leap project a lot for, is because I can just pick a specific artifact and have it parsed in a couple of seconds, but I'm waiting on my forensic suites to churn. Um, the second thing is, this is really where I think some of those automation suites help, where
Right.
you can set up to run through a backlog, or that your processing automatically triggers something, and at least you're working on something else and you're not waiting on something. So I think that those are two things. But I also think, and there's been a lot of tooling that's come out with this concept recently of triaging while processing. Like, show me
Right.
artifacts without getting me bogged down, or let me look. Maybe I can't look in your big platform, but maybe you can give me a web view or something that's not intensively churning of some of the artifacts, just so I can begin looking. And that is really, I think those three elements all can be really valuable depending on your situation. This whole triage while ingesting, doing automated workflows, and or letting me prioritize what really matters to me. I think those are all the things.
Absolutely. Often we just need leads to start an investigation or to continue an investigation. And to me, it's up to the investigator to corroborate those. You get leads, who did they talk to the most?
Or
Who did they
even
message last?
informing the interview, right? Even just
Yes.
informing the on scene interview while things are still fresh, while things are, That's one of those reasons. Again, sometimes I'll go to the leaps because I can run like a 3-second parser. Informing those rapid questions is great.
Or, on CSAM search warrants, making a same day arrest,
Right.
just confirming something that may or may not be on the phone, whether there's images of CSAM on the phone, making a same day arrest and possibly taking a child out of danger, so um, yes, those are definite challenges that we need, tools for.
So the second category, this is like this parsing transparency. And I think this has even gotten worse. So this is the frustration with black box parsers. We're not talking about acquisition. We understand we can test and validate acquisition. We're talking about black box parsers and how they reach their conclusions. And now it's not just how did you parse it? Oh, it's some data structure. You're not going to tell me how to parse that data structure. This is why, by the way, it's important for people to learn things like how to parse ABX and SegB and LevelDB. That's why we do the data structures courses, is because you do have to dig in and understand those data structures. It's just not going to be apparent by looking through strings. But what
when you say, I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt. When you say black box parser, for those people who are listening,
sure. So
explain that concept.
yeah, that's a great question. So what I mean is you run something through your forensics tool and it says, the geolocation is here and the timestamp is this. But you don't know where that data came from, or it says it comes from this record. But then you look at that record and you don't see those strings in there. You don't know what that time date stamp format was. You don't know how to decode that protobuf. You don't know. So I will say this one's a couple of fold. Number one, you as the examiner need to learn how to decode protobufs, how to look at SegB files, how to look at ABX files, how to look at LevelDB, how to open a RealmDB. You need to learn all these advanced data structures. You need to understand different timestamp formats. The number two is, I think, the more important one, which those are things that are still discrete. I'm more concerned with, and I know it's its whole own episode, AI. Because now with large language models and people being able to query chatbot, a digital forensics product, and this exists in almost all the major forensics products now. The question is where did that data come from?
Right.
What is the discrete definition of that data? And then I'm going to put the third in there, which is, even if you understand that data structure, just because something is stored does not mean it means what you think it means by just looking at that data. You still need to test and prove. This is why we have jobs. But the point is that the tools need to give us that transparency. You need to tell us where you parsed it from. And if you're using an LLM, you need to tell us all the discrete artifacts that were used to come to that conclusion so that the examiner can verify.
So educate me, why would tool providers not provide that information?
That is a great question. I think, and I want to be really clear, I'm not speaking, this was not my experience at any of the tool vendors I've worked for, especially since I've worked for both Basis and Magnet. I want to be really clear that this was not my experience at either. But I think there's this fear that maybe the tool vendor is keeping something back so that somebody couldn't put it out for free. Right. Yeah. And that is, and when we look at things like the Leap Project or ArtX or things that are out there and for free, and some of those where we can look at the code, I think that's sometimes the concern is, well, they're hiding it from me so that I have to buy the tool to see it, and so that no other tools can incorporate that same artifact. The fear would be that otherwise a tool vendor does something and all the other tool vendors do the same thing.
Right. I mean, that was my assumption, but
I think that's the fear.
Right.
The assumption. I don't think that that's the reason. I think that the reason is, it may be the reason in some instances, but I think in other instances it's that they don't necessarily have a good viewer for how that artifact works. And so that's, again, why you need to train and understand and learn those other data structures. So they don't want to point at something but then not show you well how to do it. I will say a lot of the tools are really good at giving you the path, But if you give me a path and it's to a data structure that has millions and millions of lines, I still need to be able to find where it is in there. You know, right? Like, how do I correlate that
Well,
back to the original source?
of course, you're taking a tool that's supposed to save you time, and then it's not always saving you time.
Now, so that is like that concept of don't just give me the path to the file, give me the one click link to the exact location in the raw hex data. Although, again, if you don't know the data structure, you don't know the beginning of that file, you don't know how to extract and view that file, it's not as healthy. Um, I I also think the other thing is and this does exist in isolation, but it would be really, really, really great to have better ways to bring community defined artifacts and etc. to applications. I mean, Magnet does a good example of this with custom artifacts, right? And other tools do allow you to make your artifacts. What I like specifically about the custom artifacts Magnet is that they do have a community that people can go into and share and pull down. I don't know if that's as popular as it once was. But and I feel like nowadays most people, when they're developing their own parsers, they're tending, because it's raw Python, so it's a little more manipulatable, but in a positive way, like you can do more with it, are working with the Leap project. And that's why we're seeing 50 plus, individual contributors to the Leap project that started by Alexis Brignoni and is on his GitHub. I think that's why so many people are participating in writing parsers for the Leaps. And the reason the Leaps have become so powerful is because it definitely doesn't replace my forensics tool suites, but it's definitely a nice complement to
Right.
what I'm getting in my forensics tool suites, especially if someone who just discovered an artifact is immediately putting out a parser for it faster than the dev cycles and release cycles
Right.
for a commercial product. It's awesome. It's awesome.
We've said it before, but this particular, the digital forensics community is probably one of the best communities that share information.
Yes, yes. It's actually funny. I was talking to Gabrielle, and Debbie, Gabrielle. Obviously, she's our marketing guru. We were on a call with her, and she was making this comment that she uses LinkedIn with all of her different clients who work in all of these different
Right.
industries. And Debbie knows exactly what I'm going to say. She said, nobody uses LinkedIn like we do. Like, everybody else uses LinkedIn just to post that they got a new job or they got a promotion. Um, Nobody uses LinkedIn to actually talk about data structures and or talk about brand new artifacts or new
Share
discoveries or
actual information to
share.
educate each other.
Yes, and she's like no other
Industry.
industry, and she works with
Yeah.
all different kinds of industries, technical, non-technical, and she said none of them do what you do. Your industry is special. And I thought that gave us, we knew it, but we got, what did you get, a warm fuzzy when Gabrielle told us that?
I did. I found it very interesting from a marketing perspective, but I also found it just interesting. We sort of sometimes think because of the way we interact with each other,
That
other people
everyone
must,
does,
not everyone does that.
like
And
lawyers
everyone
and
does not do that.
that lawyers and bakers and candlestick
Right.
makers must all do this the same,
Mhm.
and they don't. But also, it's the reason that we could put out a question like this and have like 50 responses that we're going through right now.
It's
Don't worry,
fun. It
we
is
grouped
super
them.
fun.
It's super fun. It's super fun. So I love that idea of almost these user defined parsers and the importance of that. And that is, I think, part of the reason that the leaps have been so successful. Um, this next one is interesting. And this is like integration between different tools, right? Like,
So, I mean, I'm assuming, and correct me if I'm like, I'm coming at it again from from someone who had the checkbook.
mm-hmm.
Um, I'm assuming that tool companies don't want to make their tools compatible with other tools so that you have to buy theirs. So, tell me I'm wrong.
I, you know, I what I'm gonna say is there's almost an assumption that that the tool vendor wants to keep you in their ecosystem.
Right.
But I would say that a lot of the tool vendors do recognize that you need more than one um, platform to do everything, right? Like I think that the folks who are building exploits to get data off of Android and iOS devices, or even our other graphene, or Xiaomi or whatever devices, MIUI. Gosh, I can't remember the name of that one platform from Xiaomi. Uh, Neither here nor there. It has the letter. It has me, I, and you in it, and I don't remember. Oh, it's the MIUI. I do know that, um, because it's the UI stands for user interface, and the M is mobile internet user interface. So it's MIUI, but it's pronounced MIUI. Anyway, not enough about Chinese operating systems. The whole point being that's a cat and mouse game, and I think everybody recognizes that you're going to need multiple acquisition tools, right?
Right.
Like I think that's just, but at the end of the day, I need multiple parsers too, right?
Right.
So tell me why none of my forensic suites just know how to read in my A-Leap results. Or I get why they might not know each other because they're proprietary, but even the
Sure.
open source one that everyone's using, right? So there's almost like this request, and again, everything we're doing, this really isn't Jessica's list. I'm just opining on it. The
Sure.
list here was that most examiners want the integration of their tools. We feel like everyone knows that we need more than one tool, just like I can't use the hammer to hang to well, I can use a hammer to hang a picture, but neither here nor there. I can't use a hammer to screw in a screw unless I really want to make a big hole.
Right.
uh,
In your analogies,
and
yeah.
me and my analogies, like, but the whole point being that you need a variety of tools, right? You need the tape measure, you need the hammer. You might be able to get away with something with the less optimal tool, but it'll be crude and it won't be as efficient and it won't be as
Right.
polished. And we're trying to be efficient. We've got lots of cases to solve, and migrating the data between the tools, sharing results, really, really, really is difficult, and it's a frustration.
Absolutely.
And at the end of the day, we wind up doing it a lot of times manually into our report, right? I will tell you the number of times that I make a bunch of Excel spreadsheets with exports from different tools and then try to get all their columns to marry up so I can bring them back into one spreadsheet and run it as one timeline and then deduplicate it. It's a nightmare. It's a
Right.
nightmare. There have been community attempts to work with this. I almost said to solve it, but solve it is the name of one of these, so
And
I'll hold off on that. But like Case UCO, which I was really excited about Case UCO. At one point, I was on the governance committee of Case UCO, and the whole idea was to really have these ontological definitions that all tools, maybe one calls it an apple and one calls it a Granny Smith, but at the end of the day, we can say they're both apples and put it together, which is the hard part of bringing the stuff together. But at the end of the day, there has been a lot of work on that project, but not the kind of widespread adoption that would make it get anywhere. And it's been over a decade, right? That's been in process. And I know it's been over a decade because I remember what lab I worked in when I first heard about it. And I love the project and I think it's great. There has been a new project called Solve It. And Solve It just got talked about, or right now this week at DFRWS EU, they're talking about it. And it got talked about last year. And this is more of like a knowledge base for digital forensics. And I'm
okay.
hoping that maybe that can lead to a little bit more sharing because it has a JSON, but it's really looking more at defining different, it's more like a MITRE ATT&CK framework but for digital forensics. What I mean by that are there are these broad categories, and then like there are then specific techniques within each one. So, and then within those specific techniques, then you would start getting into data definitions. So it's almost like it's one step up and just talks more about, you know, how do we do timeline generation? How do we do SQLite database examination, etc.? So it's one line up, and it gives like best practices and steps to do it
Nice.
and weaknesses and stuff like that. But that doesn't really that means we should all be applying different tools to these methodologies, but it doesn't map the results back out. And that's really what KCUCO did, was attempted to map the results out. And I don't know what'll fix it. I don't know what'll help interoperability, but it is definitely was high up on the wish list
It
from.
was. A lot of people mentioned it in one way or another.
Right. And exactly what people don't want to be doing. They don't want to be doing Excel spreadsheet forensics. They want the data from A and B to be able to be correlated, collated, deduplicated, and then they want to be able to analyze that resultant data. And if everybody's, I feel like our forensic suites have a couple functions, right? Like there's extraction, there's parsing and decoding, right? Then there's analysis, and then there's reporting. And what everybody is missing is that right now with the I can't, as much as you may want me to do the analysis and reporting in your tool, I can't do it if you don't let me bring the parsing and decoding from everybody else's tool.
Absolutely.
Cuz
Otherwise, you have disparate reports
right.
of I did the, there's this here and this here and this here, and that all needs to be in one place
Right.
to really tell a story.
And different tools represent things differently, but that's the reason we wind up doing Excel spreadsheet forensics and then wind up creating our own exhibits and wind up writing Word reports, is because nobody is letting us bring all the data together. So I'd say this was one of the bigger gripes, and it almost seems like with AI and cloud and cloud SaaS environments, that things aren't getting less walled off, but it almost feels like they're getting more walled off. As
Right.
more and more products get introduced, everybody's trying to get us to just use their system.
Right.
And
Mm, right. They're integrating different types of tools, different capabilities into their own ecosystem. And it does, one, it makes it harder, it makes it more, the tool price is probably going up, which makes it harder to vary for a lab, especially a small agency, to vary their tools because they can only afford one. And while it's great that maybe it has all this capabilities, we've already said one is generally not enough.
I love my analogies. And so my analogy in this instance is all of the streaming platforms, right? Nobody has all of
Great
them.
analogy.
It is a great analogy, right? Because if I want to watch one show, I need to be on Hulu, and another show, I need to be on Amazon Prime, and another show, I need to be on Netflix. And at the end of the day, I don't want to pay for 15 streaming platforms. And that's what I feel like my forensics tools are. It's all the different streaming programs. And do you know what sometimes I sit there and go? I go, it was easier back when I had cable. And that is literally the thought I've had for both.
Honestly, that is a great, simple way to look at this.
Well, maybe the tool vendors will listen to this call and maybe it'll click for them now.
I do.
No,
I hope so. I really do. I remember being, in law enforcement, and I remember really wanting the tool vendors to come to us and say, hey, what do you need? And, obviously in our tool, what do you need us to do next? What do you need us to put in our tool? What do you need us to build for you next? What are your challenges? And they're much better about it now. But I remember, at first that wasn't really happening, and I remember I craved someone coming and saying, hey, what do you need us to do? And I feel like this podcast is telling them, hey, these are all the things, people have told us. that they would like in your tools.
So the next one we've got actually pivots right off of it, and it's better reporting. And
Right.
it specifically is there. The comments we were got was, don't give us an AI summary, don't give us something that's too thin, don't give us 4,000 pages of fluff, right? They want the so what, which is what we have to do in our reports. The comments included things like, don't just give us an export to PDF, don't just give us drag and drop, let us pin artifacts on a timeline. Let us show a sequence of events. Let us create captivating visuals. Let us show all of these different things together, and then make it so that we can share it with our attorneys and our stakeholders without them needing a forensic license.
Right.
And I
It
know
doesn't
that
seem
sounds
like it
hard.
should be, it doesn't seem like it should be very difficult to make an easy report builder.
I mean, I'm gonna make a call out to the fact, like, Lumix has made their speciality making something that's presentable, and
Right.
and with everything I've been doing with Lumix, I've realized that the a paper report just isn't what we need in 2026, but we also can't give the entire case in the courtroom. And what I like is that it takes technical things but provides a visualization, not the raw data, and not just the way that things need to be presented to examiners. I would like to see more Lumix style tools exist
Right.
for the rest of my case, not just the geolocation
Right.
artifacts. Right?
Exactly.
I would like something there where we're coming up with ways to report better.
It may take a step. Oh, I don't know. I may rethink this. I haven't thought this all the way through. It may take a separate tool, a report building tool, to bring in
And
things from different places,
and I
to
I
build a really great report.
I have seen some. There have been some, and I'm going to leave the names off because I like to only use the vendor's name when I'm complimenting the product. I think everyone should know about me, that about me. But I think the problem with the tools that I've seen is that it refers back to the previous one. They're not able to correctly ingest and interpolate that
Right.
data as what
Yeah.
it means. So because there's not the interoperability, those tools
Right.
that have
That makes
been the
sense.
intention
Yep.
to do that, even if they were standalone separate companies, they didn't get buy-in from the big forensic suites, so that they couldn't get the ability to be able to actually take that data and make it materialize.
I think we're giving someone an idea
I think so. I
for a tool. Somebody go build it.
Ooh, okay. I could not agree with this next point more. The undo button for filtered views. Many examiners complained about losing their place when applying complex filters. They want a breadcrumb, a trail of filters so they can step back or reindex. Again, I'll bring up the tool that does this well. The tool that does this well, and I sat there and wish that some of my other forensic suites would let me do this. Rabbit Hole by CCL Group,
That makes sense.
which is what the name, right? It makes sense.
Yeah.
Which is a tool for looking at nested architectures. It lets me open up a SQLite DB, see a binary P list inside the blob, then inside the binary P list, get a protobuf, but I don't get stuck just on that protobuf page. I have a different tab then open for each one of those layers, and I can go back and forth and then open and sprout again. And I wish that the tools had that. The big thing being the undo button. I think, a lot of tools you only get a clear all. Like, you can clear all the filters, you can't just undo the last one. Maybe you can X one or the other. I mean, it varies different in the different tools. But this idea of being able to step back one level without having to re-index or redo the entire search, and searches sometimes take a lot of time. And sometimes when the computer starts searching, like, I need it to be quick to keep up with my brain on what I was trying to do next, right? Because I'm losing otherwise my train of thought. Um, Cross device correlation. Some tools let you bring in multiple devices, but being able to, like, have a good mapping of where the intersections of those tools are, or being able to there used to be magnet, well, magnet still has this, but it's kind of like a step beyond the connections viewer. right? Like a step beyond that, where it automatically is letting you see, when something moves from Dropbox to here to there, and it's building smart maps, and maybe not
They're,
around everything, just around the
they're
things I want to
starting.
see and
They're
exporting it.
starting to be able to either, whether it's a digital forensics tool or an
An
intelligence
intelligence platform.
tool
Yeah, intelligence platform's a new
platform,
thing.
they are starting to do these
Hmm.
things. I still think we have a ways to
We
go,
have a
but they
ways
are
to go. I
starting.
don't think they're where they need to be yet. So this
It's
whole
almost like the two need to mesh, digital forensics and intelligence tools. So we have a ways to go.
and we hear that changing, right? Like even in the terminologies, like we'll say Celebrate, right, likes to use the digital intelligence terminology
Right.
a lot, and I think that's part of that concept. I agree with you, but the concept of an ecosystem view of looking at a user, and also I would like to be able to look at multiple ecosystems of different users, see their intersection, but then
Right.
also see their separate intersections, because that's literally what we are doing in our brain. We have the suspect's computer and their tablet and their phone, and then we have the victim's phone and their watch, and we're,
There are tools and they're mainly intelligence
they're
tools
mainly
that are.
intelligence tools.
Yeah.
Yes, yes. Um, then there's more consideration of treating other, and this came that these are, again, every single one of these topics we are bringing up, these are not things that Debbie or I put on the list. These are literally from the comments that were received on this post. There was this concept of native support for modern devices, and this is that, you know Apple Watches and smart home data is still miscellaneous, still has, they're not being treated as primary sources of evidence. We need native high level parsing for fitness and IoT data that's as robust as our current artifacts. Now, as somebody, we have an IoT course. We actually just released our IoT course on demand. We taught over 600 students IoT over the summer, and I just want to make this call out. These devices have different file systems and different operating systems. Some of them use Android, some of them use Apple, but most of them are using other operating systems and other file systems that are more appropriate for embedded systems or low power systems or distributed systems. And the tooling and the automated parsing really is seeing it as an afterthought. And as such, these devices really aren't being looked at. And I think there does need to be more research and more support of it. There are a couple of vendors who do focus on these areas, but I think as a community that really hasn't taken hold yet.
No, and I'm assuming, when they look at their roadmap and they're determining what they're going to do next, it's how much noise are people making? What do people want most? And what is our capacity to
For sure.
do the next thing on the list that people want? And I would imagine that these fall down to being deprioritized right now, but I would imagine they are making their way up the list.
But I would say
And
that
again,
it's a self cycle here, because the reason people don't ask for it is they don't think there's value there. They don't think there's value there because it's not supported, right?
yeah.
So you wind up in like a circular loop. But people are asking for it. People asked for this specifically. Okay.
Well, Apple Watches, wearables are definitely a thing. I mean, they are becoming a great piece of evidence. So,
Yeah. So I think you had some questions for me next. Am I right on that?
I mean, again, these are sort of some of the things that sort of came up, but I will ask, so is the one tool to rule them all, dead? We've sort of
Oh.
touched on it,
I'll give you my high level opinion. My 2 second
Okay.
opinion is I think if somebody could get the allowing for analysis of input from everybody else's parsing, decoding, and extraction, and get the reporting right, if you could do both of those things, you'd be the tool to rule them all, because you'd be bringing everything in and being used at
Great.
the end of the investigation.
Yeah. Heck yeah. Okay. So, what is the one artifact you are still parsing manually in 2026? Because no tool gets it right.
I hate to say it, it's an ever changing thing. So I
Okay.
feel
That makes
like, but I'll say that I still don't think that the forensic suites are doing a good enough job with their native viewers for SQLite, LevelDB, plist, and those things have been around forever. So we still don't have well enough viewers for those things that I am not able to do those in the forensic suites, and I go to specialized tools to do them. And I can't believe that we still don't have good enough, strong enough support that I don't feel I need to go out to a third party tool if I need to dig into the WAL file.
Okay, that makes sense. All right, one last one from me. Okay, so say a developer's listening, what is the one UI or UX change that would save you, time, the most time?
Back button. It sounds so
Almost like the
silly.
filter,
It's
similar to the filter button.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Back buttons would save me time. It sounds silly. Remember what I did last. Yeah.
No, it doesn't, because sometimes if you're going down a rabbit hole and or even one or two levels, didn't you need to go back.
I would like to see more communication, more with incorporating the open source projects that you all know. Well, I'm
Right.
speaking to the vendors that you all know we're using. You know we're using some of the open source tools. You know we're using some of the freeware tools that aren't open source. You know what we like in those tools. Give us those things. That's why we're using the open source and freeware. But I get that maybe there's not commercial desire to do those things because we are getting them from openware and freeware. But if you would let me bring in my results, I will say, as somebody who has a team with many examiners, we all have our different favorite tools.
I know.
And I know that that's also one of the weird things, but it's also because each one of us think a little bit differently.
His
And
brain is different.
and from a lab management perspective, that can be costly or weird. But I'll tell you that I have examiners that like to use tool A, and I have examiners who will do everything in tool B, and I have examiners who will do everything in tool C. And it's because they have their favorite features, but it's because it's that thing that helped them on a case, and now they want to make sure that they never miss that thing again. But at the end of the day, you need a toolbox, and I think the magnet poll just said most examiners are using 6 to 7 tools now in every case,
Oh, wow.
not 4 to 5. That was what had come out last month, if I'm quoting that correctly. And because I remember looking at that number and going, "Wow, yeah, that makes sense."
To prove your point, one of the things that we're doing is sort of a humans behind the keyboards at Hexordia. And one of the questions that we're asking all of the examiners that work at Hexordia is, if you were stranded on an island, what one tool would you have? What one tool would you take? And everybody's answer is different.
And how many of those are open source or freeware tools?
They're all open source or freeware.
I mean, I know some tool vendor is listening and going, well, that's because it's the Hexordia staff, and the Hexordia people use a lot of open source and freeware. You all know we buy all your tools too. You all know that we're paying
It's not
customers
an
for your
either or,
tools.
it's both.
It's not an either or, it's a both. But at the end of the day, we can do the things with. All right, so I will tell you, with a commercial tool, I typically can do the things a commercial tool does well faster. But with the open source tool, I can do the things a commercial tool doesn't do at all.
Right.
And that's the reason that they're saying if they were stuck on a stranded island, they would pick. And
Right.
every single one of our team members has like a different subspecialty in where they live in
Right.
forensics. That's why you're seeing such
Yes.
differing
It was
answers.
so
But
fun though to read those answers, and that'll be coming out on social media periodically, to with all of their answers. So
well, those are fun. Those are just
it is
fun to
fun.
get to know the
Yeah.
examiners. And thank you for doing that. And we loved hearing all of your feedback. And thank you that for our audience, this show was literally all about you and what you said. If there's something we missed, please share it back to us. We'd love to highlight it. And we always are looking to, when you see us putting out those polls or those questions, just know it might be something that we're going to put out in a podcast sometime soon. And to the tool vendors, who I hope that this got forwarded to you or you're listening to this, We love you and we appreciate you, and we hope that these just help make all of our tools better. And we love you all. And if I didn't say something great about you, it doesn't mean you're not great. It just means that in the spur of the moment, I didn't think the great thing about you. Every single tool has a great purpose, and that's why I wind up using so many darn ones of you. So thank you all for all you do. We couldn't do our jobs as effectively without you. So thank you, tool
Absolutely.
vendors. We're not picking on you. This is just our wish list.
Yes, it
All
was a
right.
fun wish list.
Fun wish list. Yes, yes, yes. And thank you, community, again for sharing your wish list. All right. Bye, all.
Bye, everybody.